guys, thanks for tuning in to Gold Ring Archery. Today we're going to talk just a little bit about transitioning from indoor to outdoor archery, and we're going to do an unboxing video for my new 20-by-60 spotting scope made by Emarth. So stick around, let's check this stuff out. Okay guys, so here I have in front of me the new spotting scope that I mentioned just a second ago. And but before we go ahead and unbox this guy, I just want to kind of talk just a little bit about moving from indoors to outdoors. If you're an experienced shooter, then go ahead and you can fast forward through some of this stuff and just go ahead and get to the unboxing piece. And I'm going to do a little bit of a review about this product as well. So we're going to unbox it, we're going to take it apart, see what the components are, do some testing of some of the things that it talks about, and take it outside and see how this thing looks in real life, right? Or at least real life for me, video for you. So, moving from indoors to outdoors. So indoor obviously is 18 meters, is your standard indoor range that you're shooting for competitions, indoor competitions at your local club, or if you're shooting your basement or your living room or something of that nature, maybe it's a little bit closer. But at 18 meters, obviously it's easy to see where the arrows are going. It's easy to kind of figure out what you need to change in order to kind of get yourself back into the gold, whether it's adjusting your sights just a bit or whether it's just changing your form slightly. So when you transition to outdoors, 70 meters is not 18 meters, right? Let's be real. 7 meters is a long way off, right? It's 77 yards, just about, it's a little over 3/4 of a football field, so it's a long way off. And granted, yes, your target's bigger, the gold ring is bigger, but at the end of the day, seeing an arrow impact at 77 yards from your starting point is a little bit more difficult to do. Now, my vision's not the best, it's not the greatest, it's not perfect, but even those that I know who have really good vision still have a hard time kind of seeing where those arrows are impacting. So when it comes to being able to minimize the amount of time that you need to get yourself on target and in the right area of the target when you're lining things up, just getting started outside after transitioning from indoor to outdoor, or maybe this is your first time shooting outdoors and you just need to kind of get yourself scoped in and kind of figure out where things are at. A scope like this is definitely going to help you get there a little bit easier. So you can see where the arrows are impacting the target just by looking through the scope rather than having to shoot 6, 12 arrows and then go down, see where they're hitting, come all the way back, make some adjustments, shoot again, and see where they're hitting. The scope allows you to shoot a couple of arrows, see where they might be grouping. Right there at the same spot, your shooting line, you go ahead and look through the scope, see where things are. Okay, let me make a couple of tweaks, move my sight up or down wherever I got to go, left or right based on windage and things of that nature. So a scope like this is definitely going to help you out. Now, you can also use a pair of binoculars. I got a pair that I use for indoor type stuff. These are 10-by-50, which means it's a 50mm lens in the front, aperture wise, and it's a zoom level of 10. But it's not bad. It's great for indoor 18 meter, but when you're shooting outdoors, even at 70 meters, dead on in front of the target, it's really difficult to see unless the lighting is just right. So if I move off to an angle or a side, I can see the arrows from the side, but directly from the back of the arrow, much more difficult to see. So that's definitely something I would recommend for indoors, but for outdoors, you're going to need something a little bit more powerful, something with a little more kick. So let's open this guy up and see what we got in here. So I got this guy from Amazon. I looked at a bunch of different reviews and I had to decide what kind of scope that I want and what were the reasons why I went with this scope versus a ton of other scopes that are out there, right? One of the big things for me for this one was price point. This scope runs about $80 on Amazon, and I will put a link in the description of the video down below. So that was one of the big things for me with this guy was the price point. It's about 80 bucks. It gives me the zoom level that I need to be able to see things, 20-60, so it's 20mm to 60mm zoom factor. And then the front aperture of the lens is 60mm, right? So it's slightly bigger than my binoculars that I have. But what that means basically is that it allows enough light to get in there so you can see your target that's off at a distance with a decent amount of clarity, right? So that's what that's all about there. So this guy is also what they say is waterproof, which I'm really hoping it is. So that's one of the other factors, because if you're outside and you're shooting in the rain or you're shooting in wet conditions, shooting outdoors with the summer months, the humidity is a factor. You don't want those things being in the mix here and getting in between the lenses and causing fogging issues and things of that nature. So you want something that's built decently, something that you can possibly mount to a tripod, and you're going to want something that's not going to let moisture get in there to screw up your ability to be able to see your target clearly. So let's go ahead and open this guy a little further. All right, so it comes in a nice soft case with a strap. That's pretty decent. Unzip this guy, and inside here we've got a little manual about the scope itself, some of the operations of how to use it. It's got 10 specific little areas of instruction here. It gives you the description of what's here and how to use it. So looks like it's pretty simple to use. It's a scope, how hard can it be? There's the scope itself. And, oh, how do you like that? So, I didn't know this when I bought it. I should have looked at the description a little closerly, I guess. But there's a small tripod underneath this guy. So there's a separator in here, has a little Velcro in here that will stick basically on the side of the inside of the soft pouch here. And then you can, I guess, flip that up, and then there's your little tripod. So this is a tabletop tripod, which is great for if you're sitting someplace that has a bench and you have a table next to you and you're shooting, then that's fantastic, right? There's a great opportunity for you to take advantage of this guy. But if you're shooting out in the field, you're going to want something a little more higher level, right? Something that you can use that's going to stand up yay high, right? So you can see what's going on. You just lean over, look down the scope, and see what's happening. So it's not a bad little device. It looks like it's made out of aluminum. Maybe it's a composite plastic. The composite plastic is definitely what it is. So it's a plastic stand. Maybe it is aluminum, but it feels like plastic. It's got rubber feet, not bad. The camera mounts, or the camera, you're right. The scope mounts right there. And then you have an adjustment knob here in the front. This is definitely plastic. Move it left and right, and you have your tilt feature as well. So, not bad. I probably won't ever use this scope unless I'm at a gun range. If you're doing any kind of bench testing, then that's possibly a good use for that guy. But for me, for my uses for archery, not really important. Okay, so let's go to the meat of the matter here, right? Let's open up the scope here and see what we got. So the outside coating here feels like a almost like a smooth rubber coating, similar to my the grip on my Hoyt riser, which is kind of cool. So it's grippy. So if you grab onto it and you're moving it around, it's not going to slip out of your hands. The mounting point for the tripod that you're going to mount it to, there's a bit of a rubber indentation here, kind of like diamond plating, but it's rubberized. So that's a nice little feature there. So when you torque it down, it's not going to have a whole lot of ability to shift left and right. So you want something that's going to be stable, so where you're looking through this smaller aperture here, you can see what's going on. So the cap for the eyepiece lens screws on and screws off. Also made of plastic, but it's pretty heavy duty. And then the front lens cap. So there's your lens cap. It just pops on. No screwing or unscrewing necessary. Pop that off, and then there's a sun shield for the lens itself. So if it's a sunny day, sun's coming in at you, you're going to want to pull that out, block off some of that sun, so it reduces some of that lens flare that you might see inside when you're looking through the eyepiece. There's a zoom point here. So you turn this here left or right, and you can see 20x, 40x, and 60x for your zoom factor. It does not turn left and right. So there are some other scopes that I've seen where once it's mounted, you have the ability to basically turn the back part of the scope about 45 degrees so that you can look at it on an angle. I don't think that the turning is necessary for my purposes, but it could be useful for somebody if that's what you're looking for. So additionally, in the front here is your focal knob. So as you're looking through your eyepiece, you have the focal knob so everybody's eyes focus just a little bit differently, and just like on binoculars, you can fine-tune so that if you're looking through your right or your left eye, you can fine-tune that target point so you can see what's downrange. There's a rubberized piece here for the mounting onto the tripod. So the tripod that it comes with has that same type of rubberized coating there, so it makes a nice marry-up. But I'm not going to use this tripod. I'm going to go ahead and actually use an actual camera tripod, which will stand high enough for my purposes, and I think it's a little bit more sturdy too for what I'm doing. So I'm going to go ahead and stick it on there. But it's nice to have that grip on there so that it's not going to torque left and right. Lightweight. This scope is actually pretty lightweight. I'd say maybe it weighs 1.5 pounds at most. So it's pretty nifty. It's got a nice little build. For 80 bucks, I'm actually kind of surprised at what you can get for your dollar in today's market with some of the manufacturing. So again, this is a 20x60 zoom scope, 60mm aperture in the front by Emarth. So let's go ahead and take this guy outside and let's see what it looks like in the real world and see what we can see downrange when we have arrows on a target. Stick around. Okay, so before we make the move over to actually looking at the target and doing a whole bunch of shooting and stuff, I wanted to show you the tripod that I'm using, right? So this tripod is made by a company called Zoomy. I don't know if you can see that on there. Zoomy makes a really good photography tripod. What I really like about it is a number of different things. One, obviously each leg extends in 3 different segments. There's multiple extension points. So you can, if you're condensing this down, you can basically, show this to you real quick, open this up and you can have it go way down. So you can have a lower tripod but a wider base basically at the end. It's pretty windy out here today, so hopefully the wind isn't going to interfere too much with the audio. But because this is my typical camera tripod that I use, I had to transition to a different camera and set things up slightly differently so that you could see how this thing connects. So this is the base that goes onto my camera. So you'll see there's some rubber feet on there and a screw that you can torque down onto the base of whatever device you're hooking up. So what we're going to do is go ahead and put this on here. Just screw it on real quick. And I'll tell you, those rubber grip pieces on the bottom of the scope really do quite a nice job of holding that thing in place. I felt it kind of latch on as soon as I put it in there. So I set this guy in here, tighten it down, and just like that, we've got a scope to go ahead and do some shooting with. So stick around, let's go set things up and see what we can do. Outside here, again, it's a pretty stinking windy day out here. Like the wind just keeps blowing. But a couple things I got here. I got my handy dandy rangefinder, laser rangefinder, made by these guys. And then I've got my scope set up out here as well to kind of show you where things are. So you can see down there in the back corner of the yard, there is my target, right? So you can see it now, zooming in, right? So I'm going to zoom out, and that's 70 meters. So bear with me here a sec. I'm going to hook up my rangefinder so you can see through it. So looking through a rangefinder this way is, let's just say it's a challenge. So, but here we are. I'm going to zoom in, get things lined up, and let me see if I can get this a little bit better. There we go. That's almost a good picture. There we go. And you can see it's just about 69.7, 70 meters. It's shaking a little bit out here, so because it's shaking, obviously it's not getting me 100% exactly where I need to see it. So that's through the rangefinder. Now let me show you what this looks like looking through the scope itself. So there's the target down there. In real life, it probably looks a little bit more like that. That's pretty close to what I see. What you're seeing on the screen is what I see. So I'm gonna go ahead and drop you onto the lens of the scope here. Okay, so what you see here is what the target looks like looking through the scope. Quite a significant difference looking at it this way versus looking at it this way, right? So I'm gonna go ahead and fire off a couple of arrows and see what happens, and then see what an arrow looks like while it's in that guy. So stand by. I'm gonna go ahead and reconfigure my camera here. So bear with me a sec here. Alright, so zoom things out a little bit so you can see everything that's happening. I'm going to grab my bow and my accoutrements. And let's send an arrow as you're down there and see what happens. So I've got the scope set up at 70 meters, so I know exactly where my target line is. And I'm just kind of working off of that. Let's see what we can see, shall we? So let's roll on up in here and get a peek at what might have happened downrange, right? So now you can see there's a target right there. I'm sorry, there's an arrow. I apologize. There's two arrows on the target, bordering the 8 ring, or 7 ring, and 6 ring. One at the 12 o'clock position, one between the 9 and 10 o'clock position. So not too bad, considering how windy it is out here today. That's pretty decent. So let's walk down and see if those arrows are nice and crisp and clear. So it's, you know, it's kind of cool to be able to look back here at 70 meters and be able to see your arrows, see where they're impacting, be able to make some adjustments based on windage. Where's the wind pushing your arrows, or where your sight's lined up at, right? Maybe you're a little high or a little left or whatever it might be, but looking through the scope just really gives you the ability to make those fine-tuned adjustments back there rather than having to walk all the way down here, check out the target, and see where they impacted. So here we go. So not too bad, right? Even for as windy as it is, that's not too bad. So at the end of the day, the scope really does do a good job of providing the ability to make adjustments back there versus having to walk all the way down here, check out the target, and then walk all the way back there and make a bunch of adjustments, and then back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So doing it back that way with the scope back there really does provide a huge option for you guys who are just moving out into the outdoors. So thanks for watching and keep on shooting. So one last thing I want to kind of point out here is the robustness of this scope. So unexpectedly, because it was so windy outside, the tripod blew over. And when I went back up there after showing you guys the shots in the target, this guy was pretty much laying over on its side in this fashion. So you can even see the impact marks up here on the scope itself where it impacted the ground. Not a lot of damage, just a little bit of cosmetic damage to the outside, no big deal. As you can see, the lens itself still intact, and everything else is working great. So it's still working just fine. It didn't crack any of the inside lenses. It didn't affect the functionality of the focusing knob or the zoom function. So I gotta say, for I think maybe if it was a heavier scope, it probably would have done a little more damage. So I think because of the scope being so light, it didn't impact the ground with enough force to really do any internal damage. So pretty cool. Just a quick little update. Just wanted to point that out. So there you have it. Hope you like it. Catch you later.